What is going on? How is my no bullshit crew doing? I am so glad to be back with y'all again. Oh man, it's been a ride. I want to say thank y'all so much uh, for the support y'all done this week. Y'all been running up my numbers slowly, so I appreciate y'all for that. Um, it is a blessing to have so many people that want to support your boy. So I got to give y'all another cheering in hand for that. Y'all really doing y'all thing. So I am almost two away from 50 episodes on doing this podcast, and I don't know how to feel about it because I never thought that this podcast will wind up going the way that it was. When I first started this podcast, it was like a hobby, like I do a couple of episodes here, there. But recently, I just really felt like when I started getting some traction, people started talking about the actual show. And shout out to uh, Nora Tales. She was one of my biggest fans that came out of nowhere. I mean, her channel is way bigger than mine. And then having the hot garbage bless my channel, it really just made me say, you know what? Maybe I need to keep doing this. And I decided to keep on doing it. And because of me doing it the way I'm doing it, I really am having a lot of fun because now I'm starting to learn a lot about these cases because there's a lot of things that you don't realize about these cases that they tell you about. And one of the things that I am learning about these cases is that a lot of people are, how can I put this, are really traumatized and life has been affected by a lot of this criminality that a lot of people don't want to discuss. And I want to give a shout out to the Black true crime movement because they are really making people aware that Black true crime is not just a true crime, it's just not with one race, it's not just with white Americans or Hispanic Americans or Asians. It is also, we do some of the same things and sometimes even worse. We have to highlight those issues so you can be aware that all skin folk ain't kin folk. You get me? There are some dangerous people out there that look just like you and me, and they have a regular life and are straight dangerous. And you have to be aware and be careful. So before we start, little you know, church slash housekeeping announcements. First things first, I want to talk about is, guys, please, if you come across my uh, podcast, whether it's on Spotify, Apple, or even if it's across Amazon Music or iHeartRadio, if you see the participation of polls that I put out there, please, guys, I need you guys to participate in those polls. It helps the numbers, it helps the engagement, and it gets us where I'm at. I am trying to get ad eligible. And to be ad eligible, I have to have a certain amount of downloads and streams. I'm this close. I really am. I just need you guys to just get me over the hump and really get it there so we can really push this podcast in its natural state. Now, also, guys, if you comment on my page on my podcast, whether it's Spotify, whether it's on Apple, Amazon Music, Deezer, uh, any of those places. Hopefully, I'll be on Odyssey soon. Please do me a huge favor and rank the podcast with 5 stars, and then put down your comments of what it is. It helps out with us being able to be out there even more. Now, if you want to even critique me and say that I'm the worst podcast guy ever, please do it after you give me the 5 star rating, because it helps me keep my algorithm up and it just helps the podcast. It really does. Also, if you want to donate, it is down below. All my selection of where you can donate to help with the podcast. Whether you want to give me $1 or you want to give me $5,000, any donation is going right back here. Apparently, right now, I'm trying to get as much donations as I can to upgrade some of the mic software and stuff like that. So, and get some better headsets. These are getting older now; they're getting out of tune. I want to make sure that I keep it fresh, keep it together, get a new sound card, so that way we can keep rolling with these stories. Because I am trying to get to a point to where hopefully in the future, I can do like these other big channels. We do meet and greets and get to know each other and get to enjoy true crime live. That's the whole goal. All right, enough of me about this. This week we are finishing up. I know it's Black Friday, but we're finishing up about this story about this dirty bastard named Euri Jenkins, who has taken out his wife, Makaiva Jenkins. Now, Makaiva Jenkins, on the first part of this story when we were talking, Makaiva was pretty much a gorgeous young lady. Okay, she was a go getter. She was 33 years old. She was young. She just recently got married, and she was doing everything a good wife's supposed to do to take care of her man. But she had one major problem. Her man did not want to be her man. You know, that is one of the hardest things in the world, is when you do everything you can for somebody and they just basically tell you in so many words they don't want to be there for you. I mean, this right here is a sad case. I hate that this young lady had the experience what she has experienced. But we're gonna go where we left off, because where we left off is that Makaiva is just been unalive in the home of where her children is. on in front of well, not in front of, but while her husband and her brother is held at gunpoint by these mysterious guys. Now, right now, it is chaotic in the home. Everybody is trying to figure out, how did we get here? How did this beautiful young lady is no longer with us? And who in the world wanted to do it? And when it comes out to who wanted to do it and why, it is about to be one of the most coldest cases that you have heard about in a long time. And I mean a long time, bro. For real. So we're gonna go ahead on here, make it do what it do, and talk about what happened and how. So now we at the part where, like I said, Makaiva's brother Marquavius has made this 911 call, letting everybody know what happened to his sister. He has done told everybody, "Hey, listen, has been shot. You got first responders rushing into the home on Boynton Beach and found Makaiva in her bed. Now, she bleeding from a single gunshot wound to the head. Now, they didn't pronounce her dead at first at the scene, but because they still had that pulse. So they went and hurried up and transported her to the hospital. Now, it was until she got to the hospital and they tried to revive her, and they ultimately pronounced her dead at the hospital. Now, 33-year-old Makaiva Greer Jenkins, mother of three, and a friend to everyone that she came in contact with, and an inspiration to all of her followers on social media, has no longer been with us. She has gone on. Now, within minutes of her death, you got emergency personnel and investigators all coming from Palm Beach County. They don't rush to this home because they trying to figure out, okay, this is a good neighborhood. How in the world a suburb like this out here in Boynton Beach, somebody run up and shoot a suburban mother who is as wonderful as Miss Makaiva Jenkins in the head? So the first person to take over the prosecutor is Adrian Ellis, because again, this is in her neighborhood, and she's showing everybody like, "Yo, I know this lady. This is my neighbor. Like, what in the world?" So meanwhile, you know, let me give you another refresher of this house. All right, so the house that she lived in was a two-story house. Nice house. It's got a pool. It got an outdoor patio. It's damn near like a mansion. It's a big behind house. All right. Uh, and most of the time, the when you walk into the garage area, that is Euri place where he sets up and cuts people hair. Okay, and then you got the rest of the house where the kids got their own room, and then there's a master bedroom and all that stuff upstairs. So over the next year, everybody that's working on this case has got buried in their memory what happened that night. And it's like chaotic because no one would ever thought this woman would lose her life like this. A woman like Makaiva's on Calico. Now, while this was going on, what was crazy is the children were sound asleep when this all happened to Makaiva. Because her son was upstairs and the baby was in the playpen in the living room. And then Quay explained, like, listen, man, I'm up here getting my hair cut. Here these three men done came into these garage, which they was asking, well, there's a barbershop in the garage, and he's like, yeah, my sister told my brother-in-law, follow your dreams. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to get a brick and mortar barbershop. Just use the garage, and we can go from there. So he said, I'm in the chair, right? Said I'm getting my hair cut, trying to look fly and stuff like that. Here come this gunman, entering into as a dark skinned male, wearing all black clothes and a mask that covered his face. Quay said that at first, he thinking it is a joke. All right, somebody trying to be funny, trying to scare me. I ain't got time for the jokes. And then he was like, probably one of your friends being retarded, or Dimitri friends that, came over to joke around with us. Because again, Dimitri, and keep that name in your head, because he was the man that was around there the time that this all went down. So all of a sudden, dude, like, because I guess because of the demeanor that Marquavius had, the gunman just snatched off the barber cape off of him and with the gun pointed at him and said, you think I'm playing? He said, get up out this chair, man. I need you to get down. That's when he realized, okay, this is not good. They doing what the men said. The masked gunman ordered all three men into the home. Now, it was all three men. So we're talking about it's Dimitri, Dale, it's Marquavis, and which is Makaiva's sister, and Euri. So you got three guys that's being forced to go inside this home at the time, right? Because these guys are masked up, got guns on. So they forced them upstairs where Makaiva was sleeping. Dimitri. So when this happens, they ask or suggest that someone take the son downstairs because there's a child up here. Can I take him downstairs? And oddly enough, the intruder says okay, and he allows Dimitri Dale to take the child who was sleeping downstairs. So the gunman then forces Makaiva's husband and brother to lie on the floor. Now here's a portion of it. Now, Euri, as he walks through those terrifying moments, he went home. Man, Quay was still on the ground. We didn't know what to do about it. We was on the ground. Quay wanted to jump the guy. And now this is her sister. Quay basically looked at old boy and was like, Euri, man, it's two of us, one of this guy with the gun. Okay, so one of us may get shot. But come on, man, like, we can overpower this dude. Like, come on. But dude was like, Euri's like, no, let's don't do this. This wouldn't be safe. What? Bruh, you are upstairs outside of the door of your wife's room. This cat got y'all laid on the ground right now. Okay? I mean, the worst case scenario, dude gonna go and shoot at y'all. So that right there tells me that this was too convenient and suspect to me. Because every man I know, you either gonna fight or run. So if he done got the gun on you and made you go upstairs, you could have went right then and ran for cover or something like that, or made noise, but you didn't do that. So that right there tells me that you full of BS. Something ain't right. That's all I'm gonna say. Something ain't right. So Euri bust out and said, I just said, man, listen, if you got something, don't shoot nobody in the house. Moments later, a gunshot rang through the house. After demanding car keys, the gunman then fled the home and drove away in Dimitri Dimitri uh was trying to breathe, and Makaiva was still clinging to life, but the wound on her head was severe with one gunshot wound to the head. She was laying on her left side, and the gunshot would enter the right temple. Now, the close range shot could only have been intended to kill. It was later discovered by doctors that Makaiva was pregnant at the time of her murder, which means that the killer had forever taken not just one life but two. Now, again, back at the Palm Beach County State Attorney's Office, Adrian and Alexa were learning the tragic news. So they just found out that Makaiva was a victim of a homicide. They know who this woman is, that she's their neighbor. And she so this is what I saw leaving this morning. She said, Adrian and I both have younger sisters. So I think, what we saw in Makaiva was a young woman who was a go-getter. She was so loved by her family. She had children. And I think there was a piece of ourselves, of people that we love, that we saw in her. And this what made these two women was like, yo, we getting justice. We are going to get justice and find out what happened to this precious soul. So while they done made this pact in between each other, the investigators are still asking what happened that night with Euri. Meanwhile, you got all these special investigators searching for any physical evidence that could help them identify her killers. Now, while the gunman was only in the house a matter of minutes, the hope was that some evidence might have been left behind, a casing, a bullet fragment, or if they got lucky, even the gun itself. But only evidence of the gun would be Makaiva's injuries. Makaiva's injury, sorry. So the autopsy showed that, like I said, it was a close range. There was stipulated everything that would confirm that it was close up, personal in nature. So they didn't find any casing. So they was like, okay, so if there's no casing, then maybe it was a revolver that was used. But there was an exit wound. And they didn't find the projectile either. And they could not find no projectile. So they had no way to go on, no bullet cases, no projectile, nothing. All they know is this gunman entered the open garage door, so they knew it wasn't no forced entry. There was no fingerprint because they had gloves on, possibly. But investigators did have something even better. They had eyewitnesses. They had three of these men. They had Quay, aka Marquavius, which is the victim's brother, Euri, which is the victim's husband, and Dimitri and Dimitri. They were all present. Now, again, this is a very horrifying, traumatic ordeal. And none of them could positively ID the masked intruder. But the obvious next step for investigators was to ask them who in the world would ever want Makaiva Jenkins dead. And Quay, he offers the first possibility that the home invasion may have actually been a tragic case of mistaken identity. Because the intruder came into the house and the first thing they asking for is Quest. Yo, where Quest at, man? I need to know where Quest. Now, you probably want to know who in the world is Quest. Well, Quest is Makaiva's estranged mother. Now, if you notice early in the first part of the podcast story, I told you that Makaiva was raised by her grandmother. But her real name is McQuesta. Now, I want to say it's McQuesta Harold. And so this intruder came in and he was demanding, and I just found that out too, so my bad about that, to know where was Quest. So now everybody's like, well, who would want to target Makaiva's mother? Now, well, according to the witness accounts, Quest has struggled with addiction. And, several times in the past, had found herself in dangerous confrontation with people selling narcotics in the area, or she's stealing narcotics. The whole nine when you own that crack cocaine. Now, but according to law enforcement sources, Makaiva's mom was not only distraught over her daughter's death, she denied having any disputes surrounding narcotics that would have put either of their lives in danger. And she was blown because in her mind, why would anyone go to her daughter's house to look for her? She has a car that is identifiable. People who know her who would be looking for her knew her car. And her car was parked in front of her home, which is out in Belle Glade, which is a small town, like I said before. So this is Bolton Beach, where this occurred. Quest lived in Belle Glade. Why would somebody go all the way to Belle Glade, go all the way to Boynton Beach, which is almost an hour from Belle Glade, to look for Quest, who everybody knows that Quest and her daughter are close, but not that close. Okay? So, yeah. Didn't make sense to investigators either. So, they still well, listen, they called your name. You sure you ain't got nothing involved? Because they gotta make sure she ain't got nothing involved. But I don't think that Makaiva's mother didn't know what to think at the time. But it still was crazy that the mother was the intended target for this horrible act. And so investigators immediately turned their attention to much more common motive. Maybe it was a robbery. Now that made sense. I mean, just that day, Makaiva had been online telling her thousands of followers that she had money in her word. She had been making multiple six digits. So the question is that Sharon made her more susceptible to bad actors. Now, but according to Adrian, there was a problem with that because there was nothing taken from the home. I mean, when someone breaks into a home, right? Especially they getting people down like that. 9 out of 10, if they really, really about that life, robbers are really about that life. They're really grimy, and they got all these people in there like that. They would have laid everybody, all the men down first. Would have laid down this lady in her bed. They would have pulled out drawers, ransacked everything. Like they and not to mention this girl had a lot of jewelry. Euri had a lot of jewelry. They had a lot of expensive stuff in that house. So it's not like this house was like did not have anything that somebody could take to make money. So that right there was already sounding suspect. And there was one room that they had to pass before getting to even um Makaiva's room. They said it's completely empty, untouched, nothing wasn't even messed with. So right there, this is sounding real strange. Why is this? This could be a rob, and not to mention too, they trying to figure out how in the world did this person knew where this young lady was sleeping at. They had to know this house thoroughly, and then there was also a Apple Mac computer that was also right there in one of the spot of the rooms. So it's like, wait a minute, it just don't make sense. If this is supposed to be a robbery and you laying people down, you supposed to lay them down, steal what you need to steal, and keep it moving and keep it grooving. So they already know this some bullshit. And for him to be able to just fire this shot, run downstairs, and left in the car, no money, no nothing. It's starting to sound very personal. So now they're thinking, okay, it's got to be some one of these guys here in the house that they had to be one of the targets, or they know more than what they're saying. So they decided to talk with Detective Oliver, and while they're talking to Detective Oliver, the district attorney in the ADA, he was saying the same thing. Well, okay, there's three people in the house. There was three men, in the garage, and when we heard how they were led into the house, it just didn't make sense. That not one of them would have tried to knock the gun out of the gunman's hand. That no one thought or tried to prevent this person from entering the house when they knew Makaiva and the kids were sleeping. So we thought that was suspicious. Now, as a rule, law enforcement will tell you that a potential victim of a crime should avoid physical confrontation of anyone armed with a gun. But we're talking about Makaiva's husband and the father of the two children in the home. You might think he might want to attempt to stop this guy. Now, let's pause right there for a minute and let me elaborate on that. He's right. I mean, who in the hell is comfortable with a knucklehead or two knuckleheads, especially with a small ass gun? It's not like this guy had a shotgun trying to go upstairs, make you go upstairs where your precious cargo of wife and kids are. You are the man of the house. You should have put up a hell of a fight. At least punch this dude, got your brother to jump on him, and you had your best friend. All three of y'all could have really overpowered this dude, and you could have saved the day. Now, I don't know if you would have had to whisper to him while doing it and tell him if you was involved or whoever one of y'all was involved. We're going to get to the part how he got involved. But still, it was not looking good for Euri, because we know what really going on with Euri. Because Euri just trying to be slick with all this shit, but it's coming out. Oh, don't you worry. So again, no one bargained with him. They didn't grab the gun or even try to stop him before he fled the house. So everybody is agreeing with the ADA and the district attorney that definitely think that this sounds more than a little strange. And the other fact that they thought was strange is when Quay gave his rendition of how it went down when they led upstairs, Dimitri was allowed to take the little boy downstairs, and at some point, Euri was left up there on the second floor, loft slash landing by himself, and he didn't try to call 911, and he had a phone on his hip. He had a phone on him, on his waist, and he didn't use that phone. He was up there by himself to call 911. He didn't absolutely do nothing except wait for the government, wait for you know, for people to come back. It just wasn't lining up, right? So Makaiva's followers online were really crying over this girl's murder. And then people on social media and in the community over Makaiva's murder was pushing for justice by the day. And people on social media and in the community, they started doing their own investigative work. And I mean, you know how it is when you an influencer and everybody love you online. You know how them armed detectives are. They start to get into work, baby, because they just felt like something ain't right. That she the only one that got harmed. There's 3 men in the house, and no one tried to put up a fight. Someone did this to her, and they felt like this was an inside job. And they really drew the attention to the case. Because in weeks following that murder of 33-year-old Makaiva Jenkins, investigators in Palm Beach County were still trying to understand who would have had a motive to execute such a brutal target killing of a beautiful person inside and out. But you know, them pieces, they started coming together a little slowly. And it started helping detectives and investigators understand what really happened. Was it a robbery? Or was there somebody really going after Questa? Or was there some other bullshit that nobody don't want to talk about? But see, the killer didn't take anything from the home. And despite him reporting, calling out for Makaiva's mother, Quest, she lived across town, and it seemed unlikely that she was really the intended target. So that's when Detective Sean Oliver started looking at other people who lived in that home and the people who frequently visit that home. Specifically, Makaiva's husband, Euri Jenkins, then her brother, Marquavius, and the family friend, Dimitri Dale, who were all present on the night of the murder, and investigators are going to want to know if one of them had a secret motive to harm Makaiva. And if any of them are holding out any pertinent details from their account of the events. And if any of it was true at all. Because the first step in doing so, they started with the recovery of Dimitri Dale car. You know, the white Dodge Charger that got stolen during the process of this supposed murder, which sheriffs had located abandoned just a couple of miles away from Makaiva's home. Here, prosecutor Alexa Cox decided to get it processed and find out what kind of prints and evidence they could get. And what they saw was found in the car was something that some detectives may not have really even thought was important. But it was a receipt from fast food places. Now, those receipts led Detective Oliver to a local sub shop, which thankfully had a video surveillance system that recorded all of the cars that passed through the drive-through window. Detective Oliver retrieved surveillance video from the time that was stamped on that receipt. That timestamp was from the afternoon of the on the day of Makaiva's murder. And as they expected, CCTV footage showed that Dimitri Dale in the driver's seat of the Charger. But it also revealed an unidentified passenger next to Dimitri in the driver's seat of the Charger. But it also revealed an unidentified passenger next to him in the car as well. The Charger was driven by Dimitri Dale. So they got this. They trying to figure out. Okay, so who is this unknown driver, this unknown passenger that's in the car with Dimitri Dale? So they try to figure out, could he have something to do with it or not? So they want to know, who is this other male in the car? And could there possibly be a connection to the homicide? So Detective Scott Oliver from the Palm Beach County Sheriff Office confronted Dale with both the receipts and the video footage. Now, Dimitri Dale gave the name Jovan Joseph. And so that's when Jovan Joseph's name first entered into the conversation. Dale hadn't mentioned Jovan's name to investigators before. You know, what he hadn't mentioned, which is crazy because I'm quite sure they asked him before, hey, what did y'all do that night? Give me a rundown. And I think that if he was around you, that would be the first person you would have said, oh yeah, Jovan was around me for a while. And then he left. So they said Jovan Joseph had also been at Makaiva's house on the day of the murder. And Scott, on the day of the murder. So now all of a sudden they like, so how this guy in the house and y'all didn't even mention? Like, what in the hell is going on here? This don't even sound right. But Deb went on to say this. So he said that Jovan Joseph came to the home. They played basketball, and the first conversation that he had about Jovan being at the house was very, like, oh, my friend needed a haircut, and I knew it was somebody who cut hair, and like I just brought him over. It's very not serious, not important to note. Never tell that to investigators when they're investigating a homicide. Everything your day consists of, you a witness or they think you are the actual suspect. They need to know everything you've done from the time you woke up this morning, sir, until the actual event pop off. That's right. They do not kill. So that was the wrong answer. But we'll continue. Now, Dimitri Dale said he drove Jovan home before returning to the Jenkins residence in his white Charger. But according to Alexa, who was one of the district attorneys on the case, Dale's demeanor with investigators was starting to raise some red flags. He is very much in self-preservation mode because when you have someone who wants to make sure that they are not the target, they will divulge certain things, maybe not even intentionally, to get the heat off of them. So Dimitri, like, listen, baby, don't do this to me. I ain't part of this. But at the end of the day, they just giving detectives more to work with. So now they had a fourth man that was allegedly at the Makaiva's home on the day of the murder. And while any potential motive may still be a mystery, there is clearly enough to make him a person of interest. So Detective Oliver then contacted Jovan Joseph and asked him to come in. Now, he came in voluntarily, and I could think about how this went down. They was like, how you doing, Jovan? This is Detective Oliver. Thanks for coming down. Now, just to confirm, I want you to know that you are here on your own free will, and you don't feel like you're under arrest or anything, dude. And Jovan probably like, nah, I don't feel that way. You can leave anytime you want. And that's when I'm quite sure Jovan probably said, yeah, I understand, but I'm good. I'm cool. All right. There's the statements that your friend Demetrius Dale, you know Demetrius Dale, right? Yeah, I know him. All right. He said, and he said that, y'all was together, y'all hung out, played ball, yeah, everything. He said he dropped you off at the house. Yeah, 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 that happened. And then they started asking more things. And so that's when Javon Joseph just flipped the scripts on him and said the following. Hey, what you mean he gave me a ride top? Man, I don't know what you're talking about, bro. And me getting a haircut, listen, I don't know nothing about these people. I ain't never seen them, you know what I'm saying? Okay, well, you are in the car with this man while driving to get in on surveillance to get Mickey D's. Get some fast food. Bro, like I said, I don't know nothing. I don't know who these people is. So I think you got the wrong person, homie. And he said, I don't even know why Demetrius Dale would give a name of somebody like me. Because, like I said, I don't know him. So they said, well, then where were you that night then? So he claimed on the night of the murder that at that point that he'd been at a local hospital visiting a sick girlfriend. And he said, so what time of the morning was it? Was it at 2 in the morning? 3, 4? He answered, yeah, I was supposed to be uh, meeting up with this girl. I have a friend on my side, on my side, which is one of my side chicks or whatever. She's in the hospital. Her name is Lily. So the police like, all right, that what you said? Yeah. So they went on head on and they pulled the footage at the hospital. And they look at it, he going in. He identified himself going in. So it looked like his alibi so far so good, right? But there was a one little problem. The CCTV footage from the hospital captured Joseph's entry at 4 a.m. Now that is 2 hours after Makaiva was killed. So that now is an absolute what the hell were you at the other 2 hours, player? Because your timing is way off. But now it makes them put him in the crosshairs. Does that mean that he the person who had come into the house? But at this point, it's starting to shape that he know more than what he telling. So the police is trying to find out who in the world is telling that is not telling the truth right now, or discount the possibility even that maybe Dale and Joseph are working together and plot this whole thing up. So they start looking at the CCTV timestamps, trying to get a timeline started. And again, they looked at Demetrius and Jovan, and it was like, yo, why he playing? Y'all was definitely together on the day of the murder. And according to Quay, Demetrius Dale had actually asked the gunman if it could take Makaiva's son downstairs. And the gunman actually had let him. And this one could have gone both ways, right? Because to me, most people would have been like, nah, fuck that kid. But in this case, this person was very loyal and loving to the kid being out the way. So again, this is all sounding too crazy. Like somebody knows something. Because when it comes to children in a home, they had a line and they let them go or even let them go with someone else. So okay, it could have gone in that direction. But you also could certainly point to some sort of collaboration. You know, exactly what Detective Oliver was starting to think. Somebody is working somebody in the room. So, and he kept going until he was able to find the information that he needed. And he needed to be able to prove that each of them were involved. But even with two variable suspects, one huge mystery remains. Why nothing was stolen? And Dale and Joseph ain't had no prior relationship with Makaiva because they friends with Euri. So what motive could bring them to kill her? The answer to that question and many more is going to be coming up in part 3. Because on the next episode, you going to find out about what was promised and how that dirty ass Euri was determined, I mean determined, to make sure that he not only become a widower, but also come out smelling like a rose when in reality he is just a bag of shit that needs to be disposed of. But we will talk about this on part 3 of Euri Jenkins. Please, guys, tell me your thoughts. Please like, share, subscribe, support the channel. Y'all know what it is. I'm out, man.